Hi guys, Chronically Jenni here, and it is time for another Dysautonomia Awareness Month video. If you haven't watched the others in the series yet, pop up here and you'll be able to watch the whole series so far. Today we are talking about the one thing we would like other people to know about what it's like to live with POTS, or postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I really urge you to share this video with anyone and everyone so that we can raise some awareness for this condition, this Dysautonomia Awareness Month. Here are all the things you should know about what it's like to live with POTS.
One thing that I would like people to understand about what it's like to live with dysautonomia or POTS is that this condition can be considered an invisible illness. On the outside, we may look fine. We may look, bright, chipper, a little splash of sun on our face. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we feel fine on the inside. And that can be incredibly isolating for us POTSies. I would like the general public, our friends, our family, our partners to understand that we miss you. We miss going outside. We miss participating in our life. And we would love if you came over for a 5 to 20 minute coffee date. I want to hear about your life. Tell me about your children, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. I want to still have you in my life and not feel pressured to be presentable for too long. It allows us to rest. It allows us to be engaged realistically without having to feign it for too long. And I think that would be great for keeping up relationships until we can tolerate it.
One thing I'd like people to know about dysautonomia is that it affects every aspect of my life. I think one of the biggest things is that I can't go to school anymore. Which is quite difficult because I'm in my graduation year, but I'm trying to graduate. Also, being housebound is one of the things that really affects my life. Can't see my friends that often, which is very difficult. So dysautonomia not only affects my physical state, but it also affects my social life.
One thing you'd like people to know about what it's like to have dysautonomia, it can be incredibly frustrating for patients and family and friends involved. A lot of head scratching, a lot of confusion, a lot of not knowing what's really going on and why it's going on, especially in the early going. But even still, even years after dealing and knowing your illness, there are still a lot of days that you scratch your head and wonder how and why you feel a certain way that on that particular day. It's very unpredictable, even when you still know what may affect you, and even if you planned ahead, it can still throw a wrench in your plan. It can still throw a wrench in your plans. That's one thing that I have trouble with is committing to certain plans with friends and family, and maybe backing out last minute because I don't feel good on that particular day or at that time. So that's another thing I would say is you need to be considerate to patients who may be feeling symptomatic at that particular day or time, and that just know that it's not their fault, and that they did their very best, most likely, to not become symptomatic, so that they can be with you and spend time and do the things that you guys want to all do. But sometimes, the patient needs to take a step back for themselves and always remember that their health is most priority to them. Don't take anything personal if they can't make an event or a special event. Just know that they had their very best interest in wanting to be there, and that their symptoms got the best of them that day.
I think the one thing that I'd like people to know is how unpredictable this condition is, and also how frustrating it is and exhausting. All of those kind of feed into each other, because you can kind of be doing okay when you're well managed on POTS and then be hit with a flare out of absolutely nowhere and have to stop everything you're doing, because POTS is the one thing that stops me in my tracks. You know, with pain, if I have a flare, I can generally get up and do the things I need to do, even if it's more difficult and more painful. But with POTS, because it makes you feel so dizzy and disorientated and exhausted, all I can do is lie down. It means that I can't concentrate. So even if I wanted to work from bed, I struggle a lot. And that can be really frustrating, because your mind is telling you, I've got to do this, 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 this. I want to do this, 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 this. But you physically can't. It's not a matter of, I'll push through, because if you do push through, your body will push you straight to the floor. And that can be exhausting. And also, I don't think people talk enough about the mental strain having a chronic condition like POTS can put on you, especially when it's something completely invisible that no one can see and no one can understand unless they've lived with it themselves. And I think with that comes a lot of being disbelieved and misunderstood, and not being able to explain and advocate for yourself because you're so tired from having the condition. I also want people to know how difficult it is to get a diagnosis for POTS. We're going to talk about this more in the next video, which is about how we'd like the system with medical professionals to change, so make sure you check that out.
Probably one thing that I would like people to know about dysautonomia is that it's unpredictable. It's so unpredictable. You know, one day we may be managing our symptoms well, or as best as we can do, and we could go out and have fun, maybe go to work if you work, or go do anything, and the next day you couldn't even get out of bed. And people don't realise that just because you've done one thing one day doesn't mean that you're okay to do it another time. Our bodies are having a raging war against every single system inside of us, our GI systems, our autonomic function systems, and it is so hard to predict when those symptoms are going to simmer down in order for you to be able to do something. Our symptoms vary and change on a daily, hourly, even sometimes minutes. It changes, and there's no real way of knowing if we get up that morning and we want to go and do some kind of activity, that we're going to be able to do that activity next week or next month or whenever. So just take that in, and if you're not someone who has these conditions and you know someone that you love, a family or friend, just keep that in mind. Don't push them to do something that they once did before if they can't do it now, because we're going to want to do it because we want to have fun and we don't want to let people down, but we need to listen to our bodies and take rest when we need to.
Oh my goodness, it's really difficult to pick just one thing. Having dysautonomia or POTS is scary. It's like I think that condition in particular, it can just come out of the blue. I mean, it's difficult because all my conditions can like flare up and what have you, but with POTS, because of what the symptoms are, it can be really scary, because if you're fainting, or like I've had seizures because of my POTS, you completely lose your kind of control of situations. And to a certain extent I do get that with other things, like with gastroparesis and things like that. You lose control sometimes with being sick and things like that, but with POTS it is quite a scary thing. I don't know, I think it's because, I don't know, certainly for me, because it affects like your heart and your blood pressure and the things that are meant to kind of know what to do, and they're meant to just do it. when they don't do what they're meant to do and it affects you in such a huge way, it is a really scary thing. And no matter how long you've been diagnosed with it, I mean, I've been having problems since I was like 15 and I'm now 32, although I wasn't diagnosed until much later. I still get really scared. Like if I'm out somewhere and I can feel like my POTS symptoms getting worse, if I feel like I'm going to faint, or if I'm going to be sick, or if I'm like, you know, whatever, it's quite scary because you just have no real control over it. So I guess I would just want people to understand that it is a scary condition to have, and that I don't know, you just want people to kind of understand and to not judge you if you say, I'm really sorry, I've got to go, I've got to go home, I don't feel well, because you don't always necessarily look ill, but you are. So yeah, I guess I'd want people to just understand that.
Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you learned something about what it's like to live with POTS. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, I'd love it if you'd hit subscribe. Please share far and wide so we can spread some awareness for POTS and dysautonomia. Thank you for watching. Thanks so much for watching. You can click here to watch more from our Dysautonomia Awareness Month series, or to watch another video of mine, or head to my blog. The decision's yours.